Hello, welcome to No Name Garage. This is our first video. We're getting used to the YouTube thing. We're going to try some new stuff. For our first video, we're going to try installing this Amazon charger kit on my 2022 Honda Trail 125 or CT125. It is currently located back here behind this Kawasaki that you see behind me. So the first thing we're going to have to do is get it out, get the Yamaha YZ426 off the lift, get the trail out from over there and onto the lift. So we'll do some video of me playing the sliding tiles game to get everything moved around to get from over there to over here. Keep an eye on what you see back there. We'll do some more videos on that. We've got a R1200 GS, and we've got a Ural 750 and a KDX 200 over there, and some other stuff that we'll do some more videos on. And hopefully tomorrow we'll be showing up a new headlight rack and the necessary speedometer mount for the trail. So we're going to put all of that on at the same time while we've got the headlight bucket off, and we'll see how this YouTube video thing goes. Okay, we got the YZ off the lift. We shuffled stuff around. We got the trail out and on the lift. We got everything back in the corner so we have some room to work. So I will see you in the morning. Okay, it is definitely not tomorrow. The parts got delayed for several days, and I just haven't had time to get out to the garage to work on this. So it's about a week later, but we're going to try and install this charging kit that comes with some poorly worded and hard to read directions. We've got Honda OEM front rack, and to install that on the 22 Honda Trail 125, we've got the Honda speedometer mount that is new for the 23 and up. I can put the part numbers in the description in the bottom of the video. So we'll get started on this. I think I've got all my tools out. I'll get you on the tripod, and I'll get started on this and try and keep you in the action and just start working on it. The directions said to start pulling the headlight bucket apart. All right, that out. Headlight unplugged, almost dropped and caught. That was exciting. I think we're going to dive a little deeper right away and work to get the speedometer bracket changed over before we go ahead and install the charging kit or get any farther into that. Now, how does the speedometer come off of that bracket? I need a shorter screwdriver. I don't know where I got these two screwdrivers from, but they are super short and they have saved me so much hassle so many times. Like right here, there's not a whole lot of room behind that headlight bucket to get this screw out. I'm pulling a screw out of the back of the headlight housing here, or the speedometer housing here, hopefully to access the fasteners that hold it to the mount. All right, I'm going to pause you for a moment while I figure out how to get the speedometer apart without breaking it. Got the speedometer housing off. It was just the one screw here, and then a couple of clip tabs that engage in the main speedometer. You can unplug the speedometer and set that aside for right now. All right, this bracket has to come off. It's just 2 Allen bolts under here, button head camp screws, a couple of clips for hose routing that have to be worked through to change it, and the throttle cables here do go through it. I'll show you that a little bit closer, and that's a formed set of bars. This set right here on the new one, now we're looking at it from the rider side of the bracket. I don't really want to bend that out to get the throttle cables through it. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the throttle cables up here at the handlebar so that I can pass them back through. It's going to be the easiest thing to do, I think, without having to damage anything. So we'll get on with that. Then it gives us access to our throttle cables, which you're going to have to come around this side to see better. What I did was I loosened the throttle cable adjuster that is in line right here to give myself some slack. And I'm hoping that it is just enough slack to get the throttle cable back far enough to get this side out, which it is not. Okay, I was able to get the bar end off by using an impact screwdriver. I was having a hard time getting the screw to turn without turning the whole bar end. And that allowed me to get the throttle assembly off the handlebar. And with that flexibility, I have just enough slack to be able to pull that cable up and over and undo both of the cables. So now we can get the throttle cables out. So the lower one, the nut will spin out. And we can pull the throttle cable out. The upper one, that's a lock nut. And just a hair of thread showing when it was fully assembled. And that one we have to spin the throttle housing off of. So we should be able to reach in there and take these two out. And now that screws out. So now our bracket is loose. It has, I'll play off the tripod and show you a couple of these. It has a couple of pieces of wiring attached to it. And each of those is going to have a clip to hold it onto its bracket. There's one set of wires. That was a washer that fell off. I'm sure you saw it and I missed it. Washer that was on the speedometer mount fell out. So I'll pull the other one off so it doesn't fall out. We got one more set of wires on this side right here to unclip and remove. And there's just a little push tab. On this one, it's on the back side here. You can reach up from behind the fork and push pretty easily. We'll unroute the front brake hose. We'll slide this wiring out of the way. This will be helpful to undo this wire, just to give us a little more room to work. Now, it's going to be working with the wire that goes to the turn signal that's kind of in the way and feeding the throttle cables through. All right, throttle cable number 1. With that nut there, that doesn't want to come through there. Those were put in from the other end. We're going to have to flex that open just a little bit to get that through there. I didn't really want to have to do that, but I'm not going to chase the throttle cables from the other end of the bike. So I'll just flex this open a little bit. I'll get this one out of the way first, so we only have to work it one at a time. Wow. Even this one doesn't fit very well. Okay. Oh, that's got a big nut on it too. That we're going to have to flex that open for sure. And we'll have to do the same on the new one. The issue is right here, this loop that the throttle cables go through. These nuts are both larger or wider than that loop is. So pull those back through a little bit, give myself some room to work. Yeah. Make sure this turn signal wire is out of the way. And flex that loop open just a little bit. Now there's enough room to get the throttle cables out. Then you have to go behind that loop, behind that wire with the throttle cable, or with the speedometer bracket. So we'll go behind that wire, and then we'll work to get our throttle cables back through. We'll flex this open. We'll zoom out a little bit so you're not quite so close. So it's this loop here that's too small. So I'll just grab it with a pair of pliers and flex that open a little bit. So I just grabbed right along here and flexed it open just enough that I should be able to get my throttle cables through it now. So first throttle cable through, plenty of room to get that through. That goes to this side. Get our second throttle cable through. Also plenty of room. My zip tie is hanging me up a little bit. Okay, both throttle cables are through the new bracket. So now, we'll be able to use our pliers to squeeze that closed again. Unless we point it out, nobody will know the difference. So we had to open that up and close it back down again. So now, it's just getting the bolts back in, reclipping the wires, and rerouting everything through the bracket as it was before, like our front brake hose. Okay, screws are back in. We can finish reconnecting this wire that we unhooked. I think we'll put the throttle cables back on, and then our speedometer mount bracket install is done, so that we can continue on with the front rack, which will go on after we put the charging kit back in the headlight. I'm going to do the throttle cables back off camera. It's pretty much the reverse of removal to slide it back together, and then I'll be back with you in a minute. The next thing that we have to do is, come on, focus, there we go, is pull these rubber bushings out of the original speedometer mount and put them back in the new one, and then reassemble the speedometer to the mount and button all of that up. So I'll do that next. Speedometer is all back together. We can reinstall the headlight bucket on the bike and then get back to, let's not do the headlight bucket yet because we got to do the charger install. We'll have to have some access to get the wires up into that. Well, we'll put the charger base in. This came with the kit from Amazon. It's got a USB-C and a regular 3 amp or 3.0 USB plug. I believe that it lights up. We'll find out In a little bit when we turn the bike on, assuming my bike has enough battery power. The main reason I'm doing this install is because I often use this trail when my wife and I go on camping vacations. She has a scooter, and I use this to chase her down. I used to have a moped, but then she got her Honda Metropolitan, and it was faster than my old Honda Elite 50, and I couldn't have her be faster than me. So I bought this, and we're often camping in cities that we're not familiar with, so I run a RAM mount on this bike with a quad lock on my phone case so that I can do navigation. Big part of that is being able to charge the phone. Quad lock makes an adapter for when you don't have switched power, which isn't necessarily easy to access on the trail, hence this kit install. Their adapter goes onto the battery. It turns power on to a cord when it senses above a certain voltage at the battery, and then it turns the power off when it goes below a voltage. I think it turns on at 13.2 and turns off at 12.5. And I think that all of that up and down has killed the battery in this. I put a brand new battery in it spring of 24, and by fall of 24, the bike wouldn't start again. We got the charge port installed in the speedometer bracket. We can feed those wires back in through a reasonably large hole, easy to access in the bottom of the speedometer bucket, or the headlight bucket. And now we can go ahead and reattach the headlight bucket to the bike. That's in. Now we can just plug and play all of the harnesses inside the headlight bucket. I'll move you over just a little bit so you get a better view. Like I said, the whole point of most of this installation is so that I can run my phone while my wife and I are out camping for navigation. Not easy to access switched power on the trail. And I think that quad lock adapter was not helping the life of my battery. I think quad lock is great. I think the adapter is a phenomenal idea. I'm just not sure it worked well with the tiny little battery that's in this bike. I've got a little bit of dielectric grease here to put in the connections just to make sure that they stay corrosion free. So it gets its power from that T-harness. And then it uses this orange connector for the ground. Should be just a matter of putting the bullet connectors into the spots on this applied. This kit came with the USB charge, which we have the cord for here. It also came with several spare bullet connectors of the same style that is on the charger it came with. So I guess you could run a hard-powered or a hardwired GPS through here. The wires are a little small. I don't think I'm going to want to run anything more than just charging my phone through it. But hopefully it works out well. All right, and it is fully connected. Pull you off the tripod. I've got the battery tender on. We'll get my mirrors out of it, and let me get my mirror off here, or out of the way here so we can see what's going on. I run folding mirrors on this bike, mainly for the fact that I have to load it into my cargo van when we go camping. All right, we got the charger socket, and that is not lit up. And I turn the bike on, and it lit up. So we have accessory power at here. So we should be able to charge a phone. We'll get the headlight back in, which is going to involve some wire management for sure, and figuring out where stuff's going to go. There's a lot more wires in here than there were an hour ago. I think that we'll just be able to kind of slip everything in the back like that. The headlight is not very deep from the mount face. We'll plug the headlight back in. Engage the clip at the top. And it's definitely hitting all that wiring in there. On to the very last part of this endeavor, putting the headlight rack mount, or the headlight rack on the bike. We're starting down here because the horn is going to have to come off and it will mount to the rack. And then there's one more bolt that is right here, just behind this wire harness. I can't turn the bike because it's up against the tripod right now. But we just got to pull those couple of things off and then bolt the headlight rack on. And we should be able to finish this up. So we'll start by pulling the horn off. And then this mount will come off, this horn mount. Pull a bolt out of this side, which also has a mount for that main wire harness. This is the 2 mounting points for the lower end of that rack. And there's a little bit of a mismatch. You can see the gap on the what is the lower mounting point in your view right now. And that's so it can sit on top of the mount bracket for this wiring harness. The front rack, or the new rack, came with new longer bolts for the mount. So we'll just slide this in here carefully so we don't get any paint, damage any paint anywhere. Hopefully. Oh boy. There we go. Just had to get the right angle to get around the mounts up top. And now the horn's in the way. All right, put the horn through first, then slide it in there. Excellent. Stuff flying everywhere. This side started with that wiring mount there. All right, we're gonna leave those loose for right now. All right, snug. Back it off about a turn. Same deal, snug, but back it off a turn. I'll tighten those up in a minute and reattach the horn. There's a rubber washer that's stuck to the old horn mount that goes to isolate the horn mount. Excellent. Then the kit also came with the bolts for the top mount. And we'll get up there. That. So the top mounts are right here on the speedometer bracket, which is why we had to change that bracket. The 22s did not have this as an accessory, and they did not have the threaded holes in the bracket. And then the other one's right here next to the charge port. Get those in. Once we get these most of the way down. All right, started. Let me grab an Allen wrench. Now that we got those started, we can snug those up a little bit. I'll snug the upper ones off camera. Right side is snug. And the left side is snug. Now we can snug down the bottom mount. And reinstall the horn. Before I reinstall the horn, I'm going to tighten all of the bracket bolts. I think that does it. We reinstalled the horn. We torqued the lower mount bolts to 12 Newton meters and the upper mount bolts to 22 Newton meters. We've got our USB charge port installed. We've got it wired inside the headlight bucket and our new Honda OEM rack installed on the front of the bike. I'm super stoked with how this looks. I really like the look of the OEM rack compared to some of the aftermarket options. I like how it mounts. Take a look from the rider's view. I think in a future video, we may take a look at mounting this Harbor Freight Apache box to the back of the bike and make it a more useful commuter. So this is my first YouTube video. Thanks for coming and checking us out at No Name Garage. Let me know how you think I did. Give me some suggestions, some things you liked, some things you didn't. Comment, subscribe, like if you want. But hopefully we'll make some more videos. We'll do some more stuff on the trail. We've got the BMW to play with. We've got a Ural. We've got a Volvo. YZ426. We're going to the first track day that I'm ever doing on a big track on that bike. So we've got a lot to do. Thanks for stopping by.